This video I'll be discussing the oiling system for the camshaft on the 195.6 AMC engine used on the Nash, Hudson, Statesman, Rambler, Rambler Classic, Rambler American, and a few others. Once again, that's a 195.6. And if you watch the previous videos, I'm using connecting rod bearings from a 232, which was one of the later engines, starting in 1964. However, the connecting rods are all the same dimensions, and so that's why I'm using the bearings. The only difference being that the bearings do not have holes on them. COVID-19. So that sort of was a concern to me, that they don't have oiling holes. But like I said previously, I'll just repeat it, I'm much more concerned about the crankshaft than with the camshaft, in a way. But I'll show you guys here why that doesn't matter. And another similar problem was with, well, problem or difference was in the pistons. Some of them have oil holes for the pins. I don't know if you can see that one down there. Yeah, you can sort of see it. And some of them don't, like that one. That one doesn't. So apparently manufacturers switched to not drilling holes because just unnecessary work, and it was just, the holes were just overkilling the oil. It wasn't necessary. So the rod bearings are sort of the same. However, they do have sort of a slot, which I believe didn't arrive at that point. Like, it didn't arrive. It was just at a different position. But I inspected the connecting rods and they're flat. There's no holes on them either. So in 1960, that's sort of what I thought initially, that the little holes or semicircles, half holes on the rod bearings were just, they would actually form a hole, but they don't. So in 1964, with the 232, AMC just completely did away with oiling holes, squirt holes. And some of the early bearings or connecting rods even had 2 holes, which that was incredibly unnecessary. Now, so I just completely done away with it. Now you're thinking, well, how is the camshaft going to get oil? The idea is that while the engine is pumping, see, the connecting rod is squirting oil from this side onto there, onto the camshaft. But, if you look down in there, it's got holes, huge holes on the block, and you can see that they're directly above the lobes. There's one, there's another, there's another one, there's another one, there's a really big one there, there's another one. So it's actually, what's actually happening is those big holes are just dumping a huge amount of oil on the camshaft. And they follow from this gallery here, so the oil goes through here to the lifters, valve lifters, and then it falls through that hole there, those holes there, onto the camshaft. So when you compare that huge amount, those huge holes, the little squirt holes here, indeed, these aren't making much of a difference at all. Now, my only concern is that not all the lobes have holes directly on them. So that one does. That one sort of does. There's a hole there, but it's sort of on the middle of the camshaft itself, not on the lobe. But if it's going there, oil will certainly get onto the lobe. That one's got a hole directly on it, on the lobe. That one doesn't have a hole directly on it. This one does. Doesn't. Does. So only a few of them don't have holes directly on them, but those holes are they're thicker than my thumb. They're like 12 millimeter wide, or about half an inch, if you will, if you like the stupid inches. So I'm pretty sure that with holes that size, I'm pretty confident that oil will reach those other lobes without any problem whatsoever. That's sort of what I'm thinking and what I'm counting on. So I think we'll be alright. Worst case scenario, making a camshaft is a lot easier than making a crankshaft. You can actually buy camshaft blanks, and it's more of a racing application. But anyways, I still have a camshaft from that other engine, so if this was indeed a catastrophic move, removing the holes from the rod bearings, of course I won't let it get to that. Maybe a few hundred miles or kilometers from now, I'll just open up the oil pan, which will be really easy because I'm using my custom-made oil pan with just 6 bolts. So it'll be fairly easy to pop the oil pan off and then inspect, one of the connecting rod bearings, maybe one of the main bearings. Just open it up and see how things are inside, and then I'll take a look at the camshaft as well. If there are no major issues, which I highly doubt there will be, but once again, we're only 100% sure after it's done. But like I said, there's huge holes with oil. I really don't see an oiling problem for the camshaft.